Hi everybody, this is Osprey from MyChartCoach.com, and in this video we're going to take a look at the small caps that were in play today. So congrats to everybody that caught yesterday's video. Lots of winners, lots of stocks followed through, some ran in the morning and then pulled back, but if you lock in those percentage gains when they're on the table, there were lots of opportunities to succeed today. Today there was an interesting play came up, ticker symbol FWP. It did end up closing up nearly 82%. It closed with RSI at 80, Fasto at 82. Check out the parabolic spike here on plus DI. You can see it's almost completely perpendicular. It had made a move in the morning and then it pulled back, and it was hitting this 260 support zone down here at EMA 8. We had put out alerts in our chat that this stock was setting up, and then and then it just started running into the close. And so what happened today is it got above this 50-day simple moving average at 240. That's the green line here, and then it was able to get above that 100-day simple moving average at 302. When it got above that level, I don't think anybody was really expecting it to take off the way it did. At least I wasn't. And yeah, it was pretty cool to see it just run right up to the next level, which is the 200 and 300-day simple moving averages. Okay, those are currently at $4 and $4.05. And so yeah, we did have traders locking in gains at the close when it got above $4. So congrats everybody that made that quick trade. That was super fast. I mean, people were loading. I'll show you on the 15-minute chart, and the trade happened quick, but those are some really nice percentage gains. Now for the people that are still holding, the key is going to be getting above the 200 and 300-day simple moving averages tomorrow. Right now it's trading at 385 the last time I checked, and after I was trading it, so it pulled back, and so it's going to have to get above that level to break out higher. Now if it's trading above 405, then you're looking up here around 440, 445. You can see there was a lot of trading in this area. On a really big move, the 540 zone would be to a big run up to that January level. But right now it's going to be all about breaking above $4 and turning that level into support. Now, if you look at the FWP weekly chart, you can see another key resistance level that it's hitting. Okay, so you do have RSI at 58, so there's still room to run until that 70 overbought level. You can see the last time that it ran, it got above 70. Fasto is now above 80 at 84. You want to see it stay above that level. Look at that nice crossover on plus DI, crossing over minus DI and ADX. So the chart is really heating up this week. It had a parabolic SAR bullish flip. You can see that the green dots here are above the candles, and then today they flip below. So SAR stands for stop and reverse. So that's a signal that this downtrend is stopping, and then a new uptrend is trying to begin. And so in order to get a new uptrend going, it needs to stay above this dotted purple line, which is the middle Bollinger Band, in the 20-week moving average, and that's at 301. It has to stay above that level, and then you can see it hit resistance on the weekly chart. The $4 level is the big resistance level as well. You have the 100 and the 50 and 100-week moving averages between 396 and 403. And so notice how that's lined up with the 200 and 300-day simple moving averages on the daily chart. So this is a huge resistance zone. So if it can close above 403 for the week and close above that 50-week moving average, that would be really bullish. If you could look back here in 2017, it had been trading below the 50 and 100-week moving averages, and then when it closed above here in July, that was the start of the big run. It got above that 50-week moving average and pulled back, and then it was able to make a nice run up to 550 last time, and as you can see, that was the target on that last chart. So it's just going to come all down to about breaking $4. If $4 fails to break, you could see that $3 tested. If it breaks above 4, you could see it run into that 550 level. Okay, if you look at the 15-minute chart for FWP, you can see that it's a thinly traded stock. The last few days before this move, there was hardly any volume. Notice how tight the Bollinger Bands got on the 18th and the 19th. When the Bollinger Bands are down here, you've got the lower Bollinger Band and the upper Bollinger Band, and all the moving averages, that's the gold, red, green, and blue lines, they're all converged at the same level here. And so when you had the break above, that was your signal that it was heating up, and you can see the candles are trying to work their way to the upside. And then today at 11:45, when there was a break above and there was a volume spike, that was your clue. Okay, yeah, this stock is in play. It's a thinly traded stock, so when it caught our alert, there wasn't very much volume, and so it was you know, a low volume type of play. It had run up and then it pulled back, and we were checking it out in the zone here, and we were looking for it to get above 260, and then it finally did, and it took off running. You could see there was hardly any volume down here, and so when the volume came in, it really broke out. It got above this 115 closing price. That was the key level to break. It did close with this spinning top up here. The EMA 4 down here at 345 is the key level to hold. If it does pull back, you want to see a bounce off of that level. But this big volume pouring in, I mean, that is signaling that it could push higher. At 385, it's still way up here. You know, it's still pushing really hard on that 15-minute chart. It just got, just had that major run, and it's just going to be all about breaking $4. So yeah, we'll see if it can follow through tomorrow, or if it's going to take a breather. Let's look at CDTI. Okay, it closed up 53% today. It was up much higher, and yeah, they really drove this thing back. With the Russell 2000, ticker symbol IWM, under pressure. I did put out some charts on that today. It makes it so that a lot of the small caps are going to be under pressure as well. If you have stocks that are running, they could be prone to an attack if the Russell 2000 is bearish. So you got to keep that in mind. If the Russell 2000 is super bullish and it's pushing, then that makes it easier for stocks to sustain runs intraday. And so CDTI here, what happened is it ran up to the 200-day simple moving average at 150, and it failed to break, and you could see that signaled a temporary top, and it formed this long upper wick. I mean, we could do accumulation distribution here and shaken money flow. I always like to do this just to show what the long upper wick is telling you, and that's that there was dilution. You know, they had shares that were selling shares. They were dumping shares into the run. Look at the big pullback on accumulation distribution. It fell off a cliff, even though it was up 64% on the day, and it had this big move and a giant volume bar. Accumulation distribution spiked down, and that's because of the dilution. Okay, and so that makes it hard to keep a sustained run going, but they can keep pushing it higher, and they have been doing that lately. So it's just going to come down to breaking the key level, and on this chart, it's the 100-day simple moving average at 110. And so if it can get above this level tomorrow, that's going to signal it wants to head higher, and then you'll be looking for a retest of the 200-day simple moving average. If it fails to break that level, you could see it pull back and test the 50-day simple moving average in EMA 4. You notice the upper Bollinger Band's way down here at 83, so the candles could work their way back into the bands, bounce off of this 80 support zone, and then continue heading higher, and the chart would still be bullish and strong. You know, it just made a giant move today. It might take a breather if it can't get above that 100-day simple moving average. Okay, so you can keep in mind when you hit a key level like the 200-day simple moving average, if it gets up above that level and then it pulls back and it fails to stay above, it's always the lock in some gain zone, because many times when you have a stock that breaks above the middle Bollinger Band, the 20, 50, and 100-day simple moving average, and then it hits that 200, if it fails to break, that's many times a climax event and a signal, good time to lock in some gains. Okay, if you look here at just for future reference, just a strategy. If you look here, there's really tight Bollinger Bands before the move. Notice how it was really setting up beforehand. It just needed to break out to the upside. It got that on the first candle of the day. Notice the big volume spike and the push higher. It ran all the way up, and it did have that climax spike at the beginning of the day. When you have the giant volume bar, notice that was the largest volume bar of the day, followed by a red candle at the beginning of the day. Many times that's your, for these penny stocks, at least it's a temporary climax spike, and so you can see the candles work back into the bands. One strategy is to lock in gains when you see this pattern form, and then you could reload off of support if it holds. This was perfectly set up for the bounce off this EMA 13 to EMA 8 support zone. It bounced right off of EMA 8, the lime line there, and it kept holding all the way in the day. It formed an ascending triangle pattern, and you could see it came back up here, and it did break above high close resistance. This was the key level to break. It broke above it, and then it just kept on, having a hard time getting above this 142.5 level, and then finally, this candle dropped off the cliff. It just kept trying, failed to do it, and then, when ascending support breaks, that signals downside risk, and it dropped really hard. If it was to break above horizontal resistance to the upside, it could have got a nice push higher, but unfortunately it broke down, and it's below the middle Bollinger Band at 1266, and then it also got down here below the low close, and it's hitting the 50 simple moving average at 95. It needs to hold that level. If it can bounce bounce off 95, then maybe it could get a run back up to that middle Bollinger Band and get pushing higher again. If it drops below 95, that's going to be a red flag, and you could see 80 tested. That's the 100 simple moving average, or you could see it come down here and test this 875 level. Okay, let's look at LMFA, closed up 31% today. Yeah, this stock is made a really nice move. Yeah, it's another one of those long upper wick candle deals. So yeah, it was another thinly traded stock that had some volume come in. If you look here, it closed at 62 with RSI. Fasto is trying to heat up. When you get the long upper wick on a candle like today's candle, what happens is Fasto, it could have been up here at 80, and then it will lower as the wick is formed. So that pulls Fasto back. If you look at Plus DI, it has a nice spike here, but that is very perpendicular, which makes it it's hard to sustain that straight up type of push. And so basically, what we were looking for today is a close above the 50-day simple moving average. That was at 78. That was the big level, and it did close above at 81. So that is the signal that it wants to head higher. It would have been a better play if there wasn't so this big sell off, and then they are they do have dilution going on. There was some information put out on that. Down in the 60s was the conversion price, I believe, and so we just have to see if they're going to take it higher. You'll know if they're going to push it higher by whether or not it stays above the 50-day simple moving average. If it drops below, then you could see that middle Bollinger Band at 65 tested. If it stays above 78, then what you're looking for is a break above dollar. Dollar is always a big level to break for penny stocks, and then you want to see that 100-day simple moving average at 114 tested. That would be the next moving average. It is hitting, it closed just above the top of the current channel, and so it had this sideways channel going, and so that close above was bullish. So this was the top right here. So you had this top, and then you had these two levels were the high close horizontal resistance levels to break. So the top of this candle and the top of this candle. And so it closed above both of those and above the 50-day simple moving average. So everything is signaling that it could push higher here. Now, if it drops below 78 and gets back below 75, then it would be back in this channel, and that would just signal that it's not ready to go. Okay, if you look at the LMFA 15-minute chart, you can see here how it spiked in the morning and then they pulled it back. And then, it came down here and it hit the middle Bollinger Band and found the support zone, and then it ended up making a run back. It was pushing into the close, and a lot of people locked in gains. They were happy to lock in gains in the spike when it failed to get back above this high close level. But it did close bullish. It's above all the moving averages on the 15-minute chart. I mean, it closed right at EMA 4. That's the top moving average in this chart. So it is still super bullish. As long as it can stay above, it signals it wants to head higher. It's got to break above this high close here around 885, and then up here at 96. Those are the two key levels to break above. Okay, let's look at RHE. Closed up nearly 18% today. RSI at 53, Fasto at 34. Another one of those long upper wick deals. Had the bull cross on 80X. Now this formed that long-legged doji. You can see the long upper wick and the small, the open is at the same level as the close. And so this had the same move where it hit the 200-day simple moving average and pulled back. You can see here how this is the sell zone. Look at how on all four of these candles, you would have been glad if you took profits at the 200-day simple moving average. And so that happened again here. So always look at the previous history of the stock. If that's a key resistance level and it's been the sell zone in the past, you have to look to take gains at that level as well if it fails to stay above. And so yeah, if you locked in gains here, now you're set up to possibly reload if it gets back above resistance. It's a really ugly looking setup right now. It's going to be all about breaking the 50-day simple moving average. If it gets above that level, above 316, then it could push higher and possibly run back up to that 200-day simple moving average. But if it fails to get above, and you can see here it's in this back in this channel. If it fails to get above that that level, that 50-day simple moving average, it could keep channeling, sideways in this channel. It had that big move, and it just got right back to where it was, for a few weeks when it was trending sideways. And so to keep it like a new uptrend going, because it closed back above the middle Bollinger Band, it has to stay above 277. So you want to see it stay above 2.8. If it were to drop below that level, below 2.7, that would be a red flag. Notice there was a PSAR bull flip. You had the green dots above the candles. They did, you did flip below. You had the upper wick, but this is another one of those, big time dilution plays, because you can, look here at accumulation distribution. Let's see here, and I'll just show you real quick, and you'll see a spike down. Yeah, so you can see how it spiked down. And so you have the spike down accumulation distribution, the big spike down on shaken money flow, even though there was a giant volume bar and it was up, 18% on the day. It's just because they were dumping into the run. Now look at when they did this back here on this run in March, they still pushed it higher. So you never know, they could get this thing trying to get higher. It has to get above that 32 resistance level. Okay, let's look at SNES here. Yeah, this was the chart that I posted, I believe. This is the one I posted from yesterday, and so the big thing was this gap here, and so it closed yesterday above that middle, above the middle Bollinger Band, the 50, the 100 day simple moving averages, and then it got above the bottom of the gap level, and it hit the top of the gap level, which is this red line. That was the next key level to break, and then it closed above the red line, which is the 200 day simple moving average at 121, and so we were looking for that level to turn into support so it could head higher. It opened way up here, and then you could see it ran up to here, but the close was way down here below the open, and it closed below the top of the gap resistance level. That's always a big level to break, so that is a red flag. So going forward, it needs to hold 121. If it drops below that level, then you could see it work back into the bands, and you could see the bottom of the gap retested in EMA4 at 93. Today's candle's floating above the upper Bollinger Band, so many times you'll get the candles working back into the bands when that happens. Another big volume spike, another accumulation distribution spike down type play. So tomorrow it's all about holding that 121 level. Okay, let's look at ANY. Okay, so this had a nice move today, and then it had the big pullback as well. This was, set up yesterday, and then it had good follow through. It would have been nicer if it closed up higher. It did, it closed up 9% after closing up much higher before. It's got to get above 50 on, or trading at a much higher level earlier in the day. You can see the high of day was 73, and it closed at 54. Yeah, so it has to get above 50 on RSI. There was a crossover on ADX with the green line crossing the red and the black line to the upside, and so there was an inverted hammer that formed today. You can see this inverted candle. That in my opinion, bearish shooting star reversal pattern formed. It looks like, and so yeah, when you see a hammer or a doji formed during an uptrend, many times that signals a temporary top. So we'll see. This is it's hitting the upper Bollinger Band. It didn't form above the upper Bollinger Band. This is still just setting up as far as getting above the middle Bollinger Band goes. So it could push higher here. We'll just have to see what happens. It has to hold the middle Bollinger Band at 44. If it was to drop below that level, that would be a red flag. It hit the bottom of the gap level, which is this red line right here, and it pulled back. And so it's going to need to get above that level to make a run up to the top of the gap, which is the bottom of this candle, and then that 50-day simple moving average at 87. So yeah, so it's trying to get a new uptrend going. It did close again above that middle Bollinger Band. Just once again, you've got the big candle today and the long upper wick, and once again there was dilution. So yeah, there was a lot of dumping going on with the penny stocks today. If you look at the ANY 15-minute chart, you can see it had that big run up that started yesterday. This was the close from yesterday, and then today it pushed higher. It ran all the way up to that, above 72, and then it started pulling back. And when it got below the middle Bollinger Band, that was signaling the chart was really breaking down. It kind of tried to channel out here into the close, but it did come down and it tested the 50 simple moving average at 51. It needs to hold that level tomorrow and then get above 56 so it could make a run back up to 60. If it fails to get back back above this middle Bollinger Band, then that's going to signal, you know, that this new downtrend that started on this candle is intact. And so right now it's all about holding 51. The downside risk is if 51 breaks, you know, it could possibly drop down to the 100 simple moving average at 44. That's what happens many times. You know, they come down and test that next moving average. You will have support down here at 77, so keep that in mind. You know, so this is going to be a big support level tomorrow. We'll see if it can hold. Okay, let's look at ENT. Closed up at 9% today, and so this thing just keeps working its way higher. Congrats everybody. This has been a nice swing trade. It's up. RSI is at 74. You've got Fasto now at 99, so it's temporarily overbought. Look at all the white candles in a row. So it's just pushing. There was a drop off in volume today, so the buyers are slowing down as it's heading higher. Right now it's all about breaking $2. You can see that was a support zone over here before the drop, and so if it can break above 2, the next key level is the 200-day simple moving average at 220. Not sure if it's going to have enough steam to hit that in a straight shot, but that is the next, you know, big moving average to break. Today's candle did form above that upper Bollinger Band. If it fails to get above $2 and it pulls back, it needs to hold this gold line, the 100-day simple moving average at 164. If it can hold that in EMA4, you know, the strong uptrend will still be intact. As long as candles keep riding this pink line, EMA4, then the uptrend is super strong. Once it closes below, that's when you could get some consolidation. So we'll see, you know, if that's going to be able to get above 2 tomorrow. Okay, let's look at PRPO. Closed up 16% today, nearly 17%. RSI at 56. Yeah, this formed the black candle today, and so that's where the open was up here and the close is down here. So even though it was up, what was it, 16% on the day, it did close below the open, and that's just a signal that they were, you know, either dumping some shares, you know, the bears were driving it down. Just the bulls were not strong into the close. Now it did close above the 50-day simple moving average at 47, and so that's what needed to happen technically. You can see here it failed to do that on the 14th, so that's the first close above the 50-day simple moving average since back here on March the 20th. And so if that level can turn into support, then this new uptrend could continue. You can see it's been starting a new uptrend. You know, these candles were all working on that middle Bollinger Band at 42, you know, and they were turning that level into support. As long as it holds, that uptrend should continue. And then what you're looking for is a breakdown above the 100-day simple moving average at 71. That's the next target if the 50-day simple moving average turns into support. If it drops below the 50-day simple moving average, that'll be a signal that it's just not ready to go. If on the 15-minute chart, you can see it had the big gap up open, and they just drove it down so hard. You know, they just totally attacked it. It's never fun when that happens. You know, they came down, and yeah, it looks like, did the gap fill? It did, and then of course they didn't fill the gap. You know, so there's a gap between high of day yesterday, which is the top of this candle, and low of day today. And so, I mean, it would have been better if they would have just filled the gap, because now there's unfinished business down to 46. So you might see a dip down to 46, you know, to fill that gap before they push it higher. And so, you know, many times a gap fill is a catalyst for a bounce. So look for a potential bounce off of this 45. You know, you've got the 50 and 100, the 100 and 200 simple moving averages here in the 45 zone. And so, you know, you could see a bounce off of that level if they pull it down lower. If it gets above 49, that's a signal that you know, this uptrend is back intact and it can get moving higher. So yeah, all the volume was in the beginning of the day, and then you know, they pulled it back. And so yeah, we just have to see if they can get something going here. All right, let's look at EGO. Closed up nearly 17% today. You've got RSI at 65. Fasto's now at 94. Look at the big crossover. Well, I guess it didn't cross over. It was pinched. It was getting ready to cross over, and it bounced off. The crossover was back here. But yeah, this came up today, and we weren't sure if it was going to hit that or close above the 100-day simple moving average. That was the key level at 110. And so it did close above. And so that was cool, a penny above, but that still counts. It was a close above resistance. So if it can stay above 110, this high close over here in March, you know, around 114, 113, that zone, if it can get above that level, that should signal that this uptrend is intact. It's trying to break out. You can see here it has a sideways channel going. You know, this was the top of the channel, and then you had the bottom of the channel down here. And so today there was a break above the top of the channel, and many times that signals that the stock wants to head higher. It was working on the green line here. That's the 50-day simple moving average, and so that level, turned into support, and now it's working. Now it's going to work on the next one. Is it going to do what it did here and start, trending sideways along the 100-day simple moving average? It could, or if it stays above 110, it could push higher. So keep an eye on it. All right, let's look at HUSA. This is an energy sector penny stock. That had been doing really well. Oil keeps pushing higher, and the energy penny stocks have been in play. And so, yeah, now keep an eye on HUSA. Closed up 9%, RSI at 57, FASTO at 64. There's room to run. It's hitting the 100-day simple moving average. That's the gold line here at 287. If it can close above that level, that should be the signal it wants to head higher. You can see all these candles had been hitting that level and failing to break, and so once it finally closes above, that should be a signal that it wants to push higher. We'll see. It did close today above the 50-day simple moving average at 269. It needs to stay above that level. That was the first close above that level since back here in March, so that was a signal that the chart's heating up and could possibly push higher. So have HUSA on the radar. Okay, another one to look at, DFFN. This is a stock that's heating up. Just caught my eye here when I was looking at charts after hours, and yeah, so keep an eye on this one. It had a close above the middle Bollinger Band today at 51.3, and so you can see it had been working on turning that into support. It was working on breaking it. It was just failing to do that, and the downtrend continues. So if it can get above the 50-day simple moving average here at 558, that would be a bullish change in trend, and then it could possibly get a reversal going. It had a nice volume spike today, a PSAR bull flip. And then if you look down here, it's got MACD bull crosses on both time frames. So the chart is heating up. The MACD line is the black line crossing over the signal line, and so that's just, all signals that the chart's heating up. If it could stay above 51 and break above 56, maybe it could push higher. So keep an eye on that one. So we've got DFFN and then IMNP. Closed up 19%, and so yeah, this is the dead cat bounce play, and so you can see here it had a really nasty pullback, and it had been riding this pink line lower. There was a close below on this red candle, and so each one of these candles was below the pink line until today. And so if it can stay above 25, maybe it could get a bounce going. Next key level to breaks, EMA 8 at 27. Gets above 27, EMA 13 at 29 will be on deck. So yeah, keep an eye on this one. I know, there's a lot of people that like to play these kind of bounce plays, and so the close above EMA 4 is your clue that the chart's heating up. It did also have a bullish volume spike, so it closed above resistance on a volume spike. Maybe it can get a run going. So keep an eye on that one. And then another one to watch is AMCN. This is a low volume play. It did close up 20%. Only 370,000 shares traded. You've got the RSI heating up. FASTO is maxed at 100 because it closed at high of day. Bullish crossover here on 80X. So today there was a bullish close above the middle Bollinger Band. That's the dotted purple line. The last close above that level was way back here on this candle back in March before the downtrend started. So this could signal the possible start of a new uptrend. It did run all the way up to the 50-day simple moving average at 782. As you can see, that's where it topped out in March. If it breaks above that level tomorrow, it could possibly make a run up to the top of this candle at 875 and possibly that 100-day simple moving average at 961. Those would be the two key levels to break above. If it did get pushing, also, yeah, you've got to recognize this little area right here at 80 cents, and so these would be the two big barriers to break on the way to the 100-day simple moving average. But keep an eye on it, because if it gets above that 50-day simple moving average, it could get pushing higher. All right, so it did have the volume spike, so you always want to look at the volume, and then notice how today's volume was larger than any of the volumes since back here in April. And so when you get a volume spike, a break above resistance, that those are your clues that the stock has the potential to run higher. PSAR bull flip. Yeah, so we'll see if it can move. And also, I mean, RSI at 60, there is juice in the tank there. And then finally, another low volume play. All right, so this is the crazy illiquid stock. But yeah, it just caught my eye. Take a look at MLSS. Did close up 24%. It has had some volume yesterday. Okay, so for the super penny players, you know, it had that volume yesterday, and then today it was able to break above resistance. It closed above that 50-day simple moving average at 78. If it were to get above that 100-day simple moving average at 89, then it could possibly make a run up there to the 200-day simple moving average at 105. You know, it's going to have to get above the 95 zone here. You know, you've got this channel. There was a sideways channel there that's lined up with that 100-day simple moving average. And so, you know, 90, 95, possibly run up to 105. Just keep in mind, super illiquid stocks like this are tough to trade. They can be easy to buy, but tough to sell. And so you're going to know when you're looking at level 2, if you've got a big spread between the bid and the ask, that's an illiquid stock. All right, so yeah, thanks for viewing this video. If you'd like to learn more about charts and technical analysis, please come check out the chat. I'll post the link below the YouTube video. Thank you.